Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our meeting today. I am Tom, as always. We have Chang, Sam, and Ricky, and today we have come together to discuss some high schoolers that are having some difficulties in their learning. And we will be going over their cases one by one and discussing if they might have any exceptionalities or they might be expressing some of the symptoms of the exceptionalities that we discuss in class. First of all, my case study is about Kevin, who's a grade 10 student that is having some difficulty in his math learning. Some of the learning challenges that is faced by Kevin is mathematical understanding and application. His most significant academic challenge seems to be mathematics, particularly in Algebra 2. Despite him understanding the concepts when presented in class, he struggles to apply them correctly on tests and homework. His difficulties are reflected in his grades and his score on the standardized tests, where he performs significantly below his grade level. He also exhibits avoidance behavior related to math assignments. He sometimes does not turn in homework even when he has completed it, which suggests a psychological barrier or disengagement from the subject. His trouble keeping up with homework and completing projects in time might indicate a broader issue with time management or organizational skills. Based on a case study, it's challenging to identify any specific exceptionalities without more data. However, some aspects suggest potential issues. His difficulties with math application, despite understanding the concepts, might suggest a specific learning disorder, such as dyscalculia. This condition is characterized by difficulties understanding number-related concepts or using symbols or functions needed for success in mathematics. However, it's important to note that this is purely a speculation and further assessments would be required to determine any learning disorders. The additional information that would be required to further diagnose this issue would be his detailed academic history, as understanding his past academic performance, particularly in math, would help identify whether his current struggles represent a continuous pattern or new development. Also, understanding his preferred learning style might help devise strategies that can cater to his strengths while learning math. A formal evaluation by a school psychologist could also be beneficial in ruling out or identifying potential learning disabilities or emotional issues that could be affecting Kevin's math performance. And also, additional insights from his teachers and other subjects and peers might also provide a more rounded view of Kevin's learning habits, social dynamics, and behaviors that may not be immediately apparent in class. Dyscalculia could also affect him in many ways outside of school, such as when he is at a job, for example, or when he is managing finances, as people with dyscalculia oftentimes struggle with budgeting their money and also their time in like scheduling his plans and such. Also, he seems to get along well with his friends, and his teachers recognize him as a straight A student in other subjects such as literature. So I believe he is a good student, but he might need require some assistance in math. So other resources that can help assist Kevin is dyscalculia.org and LD Online. Thank you.
Hello, my student is a 10th grader named Raymond, and from his report, it seems like the main 3 points of struggle that he has is that he is unable to write legibly, where it's to the point where even he can't read his own paper afterwards. Second, he has issues expressing his ideas on paper because he's able to think and internalize information very well, but once he has to share that information, either written or speech. He seems to have issues being able to properly express himself. And lastly, because of this, he also seems to internalize a lot of his feelings and doesn't like to share what he feels or thinks to other people. These symptoms seem to be characteristic of many different things, such as one called dysgraphia, which is, as the name implies, an inability to write properly. But such symptoms are also common comorbidities of those that are on the autism spectrum, right? Such as developmental coordination disorder, right, which is shown by his lack of fine motor skills, anxiety disorder, right, the internalization and frustration and anxiety he has, and speech and language processing disorder, especially the expressive kind, since he cannot properly express his ideas. Right? Such symptoms may not necessarily affect him currently. It could affect his social like interaction in the future, right? Because of his inability to properly express himself and share his feelings, it may affect his ability to make friends and be part of the larger community as a whole. So it is kind of worrisome that he can't express himself properly. So that's something that has to be looked out for. And in order to get a proper assessment, we would need more information about his work, seeing how long this has been occurring for. So we need to have more data to see how has his work changed throughout the years, whether or not this has been a constant ongoing problem or if it's just a recent development. Then we also need more information from his teachers, parents, and like his friends, if he has any, to see if this is affecting his social ability and whether or not this is affecting his ability to move forward in his work. And then, of course, a professional evaluation from those who are experts in, such as those of autism and dysgraphia, will be the best for his future.
So for me, I got Alan, who is an 11th grader. So based on Alan's report, his biggest issue is that he has trouble staying focused and on task. This is demonstrated the most in history and biology classes, where he finds the material to be boring and not consistently gratifying. Because Alan is not interested in these subjects, it leads to him having poor organization and time management skills, resulting in him unable to complete good quality work and submitting it on time, leading to his referral. So, based on the information provided, Alan shows signs of an of a potential ADD. The report states that during history and biology classes, Alan will often tune out and show difficulties staying focused on tasks, even though Alan succeeds in a lot of other areas in school, such as math, literature, drama, and PE. Alan is showing high quality attention for tasks of interest and low quality attention for tasks of no interest, which is a potential sign of ADD. However, Alan's focusing issue was the only potential sign of ADD, as he also has incredible memory and excellent verbal and social skills. Thus, in order to further assess the situation of Alan, additional information will be required. However, with the information from the report, personally, I feel like Alan would be able to do just fine out of school, as he has great social skills, speaking abilities, and memorization. Even if Alan doesn't find interest in history and science, he can still succeed in the areas that he is actually interested and does really well on, which is demonstrated by a project that he worked on. But I feel like that there are also things that the school could try and do to help improve Alan's attention and interest. Okay. And some additional information that I will like would be Alan's past medical records and living habits. Since ADHD is often accompanied by a different medical diagnosis, so by getting his medical records and seeing his living habits, how he sleep, it would be able to help identify. And also, I would like to know more about Alan's English teacher as well as his relationship with him. In the report, Alan stated that this teacher knows him better than anyone else and helps him stay focused when he fades out. Maybe this teacher was able to notice some struggles that Alan faced and was able to help him face it and overcome it. Personally, I remember back in high school, I took a law class. To me, law isn't the most interesting, so there were some times where I would doze off. But the teacher, Miss Hopkin, who's super energetic and makes a lot of jokes, because of her, I was able to stay more focused during class. And I think it's still the same for me, even up to this point. Like when a prof or a teacher is super enthusiastic and they care a lot about the subject that they're teaching, it would just be easier for me to focus as well. Another thing that I would like is also is Alan's past grades as well. To see how he was doing in science and history growing up, to see if this was something that already happened. Also, from the report, it seems to me that there's a tremendous amount of pressure being put onto Alan with his family and his peers. Firstly, because he excels in other areas in school, his peers feels as if he is obligated to succeed in those areas as well with his kind of ability. The report also mentioned that he has an older brother who is a star student and is able to achieve more than Alan when he's supposedly only working half as hard. So he feels a sense of jealousy, which would most definitely lead to him being having pressure built up. So I would also like more information regarding his relationship with his brother. And also, Alan also stated that his parents are always on his back regarding homework, which led to some stressful confrontations and building up more stress. So information on the relationship between Alan and his parents is also crucial. Um, and yeah, so some helpful resources that y'all can look at. We got the CADDAC, which is the Center of ADHD Awareness, mm, national not for profit organization. And for Alan, I think the CHADD would be better. It's Children and Adults with ADD, which is also a nonprofit. And obviously, there's also ADD.org. Yeah.
So I did Sandra. She's in the 10th grade. Her most critical learning challenge seems to stem from difficulty understanding abstract concepts and applying it beyond the role of this memorization. It seems to manifest across different subjects. Like in English, she struggles with figurative language, metaphors, and symbolic words. However, in math, she finds it hard to understand like why to use equations. Like she knows you're supposed to, but she doesn't understand the concept behind why. And she also can't apply it to real life applications. In physics, she can't grasp the fundamental concepts or apply knowledge in new situations. Furthermore, her struggles to understand ideas and information in her classes has led to like incomplete homework assignments and a decrease in her self-confidence. So based on the information given in the case study, it is possible that Sandra may have a specific learning disability. Students with specific learning disabilities or SLDs often have trouble understanding abstract concepts and language and struggle with the application of learning. And Sandra's struggles do align with this pattern. Also, her reported strengths are memory recall, social skills, and specific interest areas, such like design and computers, are consistent with many individuals who have SDLs and who might excel in certain areas while facing significant challenges in others. These struggles, these struggles, while occurring in various subjects, do not seem to be tied with social interactions or other behavior issues that could suggest autism or emotional and behavioral disorders. Yeah, it is important to note that due to the ability for kids with SLDs to not have any behavioral problems, from the perspective of their parents, they may not never notice that they have these problems while they're growing up until the kid goes to school, and then his teacher, from the teacher's perspective, they may be able to spot these and then further find further help to see if there is a problem. Um, However, a definitive diagnosis would require a comprehensive evaluation by a professional. Like this is just speculation. Um, Me, in my personal experience, and like back when I was in high school, there was a program for students with LDs, and I was friends with a lot of them. And one of my friends who had an SLD was actually very good program at programming, and like he was really good with computer stuff, but he really struggled with like understanding math and science concepts. So he was also similar to Sandra. And learning disabilities also can present challenges beyond school. Like for example, vocational training education, like it can affect skill acquisition because like vocational education often requires learning specific techniques with students with LDL may struggle with understanding and remembering the complex instructions that they're given. And also like vocational education is basically like skills training like after school. It's like trades and stuff. And it may also affect them in practical applications. Kids with LD may struggle with applying theoretical knowledge into practical situations. Um, it also may, if English is not one's first language for a student, the identification and accommodation of learning disabilities might be affected differently. Teachers must be aware of this and differentiate between difficulties due to a language barrier and a learning disability because it can get confused. Um, Also, if working with indigenous communities, the educational strategies should respect and include indigenous knowledge systems and pedagogies. Um, in regards to Sandra, to actually know if she's struggling from SDL, additional information would be needed, like information about her cognitive processing abilities and her academic performance across a wider range of tasks and subjects. For instance, assessing her reading comprehension, logical reasoning, and problem solving abilities could help identify specific cognitive difficulties. I'd also like to know more about her learning history, including when she began to struggle with her schoolwork and if there were any notable changes in her personal life around that time. Understanding her motivational level, anxiety, and self-esteem related to school and learning is crucial as well. It would also be important to talk to her teachers to get a sense of how she interacts with her peers, how she behaves in class, and if they notice any specific triggers to seem to cause her struggles. I'd like to gather information about her health and cognitive factors as well, throughout that out as a primary cause of the problem. All this information can help to form a more comprehensive picture of her learning profile, inform any necessary evaluations, and guide potential intervention strategies. So, in conclusion, today we have discussed a student with a specific learning disability known as dyscalculia, a student with autism, a student with ADD, and a student with a specific learning disability.
Just to
And
jump in, we haven't diagnosed them yet. We've just seen symptoms that they may have expressed some of these exceptionalities, but we don't know for certain that they do have these exceptionalities.
It's
yes, we
all
only
observations.
theorize this.
All observations.
Yes.
And we theorized what exceptionalities they may have had and what behaviors have started this assumptions. We didn't diagnose.
Mhm.
That was my bad.
Yeah.
Exceptionalities are becoming increasingly more common in society, and knowledge about them and what behaviors may make them up is important to have. Some quality resources for colleagues to explore are, for one, the National Dissemination Center for Children and Disabilities. This is a central source of information on disabilities for infants, toddlers, children, and youth. Another one is the IRS Center. The center is a national center dedicated to improving education outcomes for all children, especially those with disabilities from birth and through age 21. There is also the Center for Parent Information and Resources, serves as a central resource of information and products for community of parent training information. And the last one I have here is IDEA, is for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And it's a Department of Education site explaining the federal law on services for children with disabilities. It's important that we all stay educated. Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir. Do you guys have any questions for any one of us? I have a question for you, Cheng. In your case study, you mentioned that he What was your case study's student's name again?
Alan.
Alan. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned that like his prior academic history would be useful in assessing his situation, but is his symptoms, have they been expressed just recently, or have they been going on like throughout the year?
It started in high school, but I would still like to know.
Hmm, I see.
He started really struggling in high school, but still, I would like to know how he was doing up until that point.
Hmm.
I think it would be helpful. Yeah.
Do you have any like personal connections to what he's experiencing?
Well, for me, like I said, it's just an attention thing for class. Like sometimes I would doze off, but for me at least, depending on like the teacher or the prof,
Mm-hmm.
it would vary a lot.
Yeah.
So,
How about you, Ricky? Do you have any personal connections to what your case study student is experiencing? Edit.
I also understand Raymond's struggle, frustration for his writing, because I also have terrible handwriting, making it hard for me to express myself through words. From what we've seen about Raymond's work, it could just be he just has problems with his handwriting, and there's no psychological issue. So we'll have to see how his work has developed over time and see whether or not his handwriting has improved, because he seems to have expressing his frustration about his handwriting, but he's either making attempts to improve it or has been incapable of improving it so far. Thus, may underline a more broader issue that can be addressed.
Pertaining to my case study with Kevin, I sympathize a lot with his struggles in math, because back in like I was doing fine in math throughout my school years up until high school when we started getting to calculus, like quadratics and stuff. Like I think it's not only because the material got harder, it's just I wasn't able to keep up with the studying that had to be done outside of school. Like up until then, I like studying in school sufficed for me, and I didn't have to do any additional learning outside of school, like at home homework. So I wasn't really used to like I'm gonna put extra hours in after school, and that made me like struggle a lot in later subjects of math, such as like um, calculus. And I really sympathize with Kevin, and but I think additional information is required because we cannot say for one that he has a dyscalculia just because he struggles in math. There may be other underlying issues that may be pertaining to this case. Struggles like this, that the disconnect from, or the inability to be able to keep up with the studying, I think also different cultures play a part in that too. Like I feel like as a immigrant myself, the learning style here versus back home in Vietnam is way different. At least in Vietnam, like we had to study hard every single day after school, like nonstop. So when I got here in junior high, like I had to do zero studying outside of school. I only studied in class, and like nine to three, and that was it. I went home. I just like played video games, stuff. So when I got to high school, I feel like my work ethic had got like way down. It like nosedove down to the floor. So I lost all my work ethic, and I feel like um, that is something that a lot of my immigrant friends can feel the same way as well, because um, I feel like uh, the curriculum can affect a lot in a student's ability to learn and their ability to succeed in school. So I feel like additional support could be given that as well if Kevin is facing the same difficulties that me and my friends were facing. Do you guys have anything else to add? If not, that is the end of our meeting today. I hope you all have learned something from this case study, and we will see each other again sometime soon. Peace.